Even the dust settled on the 2022-23 season, how do you look at the season overall?
I think it's been a huge success. We have to remember that we haven't been in the top 6 before, and this group of players have achieved that. Hopefully they'll go down in history. There's been challenges on and off the pitch this season, and the clubs had to be stripped back down and built back up again, and we're well on the way to doing that. The academy, we've appointed new people in the academy in terms of more staff. We've added another physio to the club. We've added another strength and conditioning coach, and we're going to add a first team analyst to the club. So we're making strides to put positions in place that are necessary to maintain a top 6 side. As an overall season, playing wise, I think it's been an exciting brand of football. The fans have turned out in their numbers and really connected with this group of players, which is no surprise. It's the phrase I continually use. They're playing for the badge in the front and not worrying about the name on the back, and that takes care of itself. You can see the passion and desire and the togetherness, especially at the Smizer Stadium. They've turned up in their thousands to watch the boys, and it's been entertaining. It's been a roller coaster at times, up and down, and we seem to get results when we shouldn't, and lose games that we should do better in. So overall, I'll reflect on it with the staff and look at any trends, look at especially our wave form. Is there things that we can do differently? Is it some just coincidence in terms of the penalty decisions, and a big factor is playing with 11 men. It was a lot of the games we played away from home with 10 men, so obviously that has an adverse effect. So lots of things to learn from, lots of things to enjoy from the season, and look forward to building upon that relative success.
It feels like there's been an incredible togetherness at this club, from the board, from the first team, to the staff, to the fans. Can you talk to us a little bit about that togetherness and what you've seen that as?
Yeah, I think, when I came in May time, obviously we started to find out about the finances. Everyone was hit by the COVID situation, and it was catching up on us, and a lot of cuts had to be made, a lot of tough decisions, and the board done that with the best interest at the football club at heart, and we had to get through a period. We had to get through January, February. The team on the pitch done very well, so that kept crowds high, and still were able to attract players to the football club, but it's grown as the season's gone on. The connection between the boys, obviously relationship between myself, the board and the staff, to every decision that we made was to try and take the football club back to a level footing and then start to grow it again. And Keith's been a big part of that. I work very closely with Jim Gillespie. Every board member has a job within their remit to do, and Jim's very much involved in the football side of things. And between him, myself, and Martin Foyle, we try and manipulate the budget as best we can to produce the best players for St Mirren. So all them relationships have grown. As have the relationships between the squad of players, and this is now a really good place to work. It's a really good place to walk into in the morning, and there's a vibrancy, there's a positivity about the place, and I think that's reflected on a Saturday in around the stadium, with everything from the media side of it, from the hospitality side of it. There's lots of bits that go unnoticed and unmentioned that make up a successful football club, and we're building bridges, we're building, brick by brick. Keith and the staff are trying to put that in place.
How much pride do you take in that, what the togetherness has grown throughout the year?
Yeah, it's in terms of the football side of it, I try and sign good boys. I inherited some very good boys and talented players, and we added to that. We added 5, I think, players to it that enhance the squad, give it more pace, give it more energy, reduce the age a little bit as well, and that energy on the pitch brings people together. You can see our fans know now that nobody makes mistakes on purpose, but what we will give is 100% every single game, and some games it's good enough, some games it's not, but it's not from lack of work rate, it's not from a lack of desire to be here and work for the football club and the badge. So that's refreshing that I can be at the head of that. Off the pitch, so many things have had to be cut down and built back up again, and it's a challenge now to try and get ourselves to be a top 6 side again. There's been a lot more money spent than we can afford to spend, but we'll be clever with it. We'll do it within our means, and as I mentioned previously, myself, Martin Foyle, Jim Gillespie, we'll spend the next month probably arguing and fighting over how we get players in, and we'll be a few late nights on holiday trying to make sure we have the best possible squad to start the season.
You talked a little bit about the relationship you've got with the board, Jim Gillespie. How important is that board support, and for people who maybe don't really appreciate what they do for you, what can you give us an insight into it?
I mean, in all the courses you do as a manager, it's the hardest bit is managing up. But it doesn't go unnoticed by me that when I first came in, we didn't get results, and I had massive support at that stage from all the parts of the board. And the chairman texts me every night. I had support from Jim, support from every member of the board, and it's a balance. The board have to run the club prudently. I always want more. I always want to build the first team and be successful, because it's a short-lived career. So I believe we've got a really good balance. As I say, every board member has got a job to do within the football club. Some work on facilities, contracts, etc. And as I say, I work closely with Jim Gillespie on the football side of things, in terms of the academy, the signing of players, and the negotiating of players. And you can use everybody's business acumen and put it into the football scenario and try and get the best possible result. So, I've got a good relationship. I always have done with the board at Motherwell. People allow me to run the football club within the means that we have, and I have nothing but support. And long may that continue.
Talk about the squad we've got. There's a lot of players already under contract. There's a good nucleus there. How important is that in terms of laying the foundations for the season coming ahead?
Yeah, I think it was. In terms of last year, we were still up in the air by the time the cup competition started. We hadn't got players in, or we hadn't had players fit. People like Curtis Meehan hadn't returned to training due to injuries and operations. So it's important we have the base of the squad together. We've got a very good base. The hard bit now is to improve that. So we need 4 or 5 players. We've reviewed the season as a staff, and we looked at statistics. We looked at, is there trends when we win? Is there trends when we train on certain days or give certain days off? Nothing's left a chance, and we'll look at that. And if there's small percentages that we can improve, we will do. We're investing a little bit more in the medical side with another physio, a bit more equipment, as it's absolutely vital that we keep players fit. We've got a small squad, and we have to keep players fit. The other thing is the connection between the academy and the first team. Our younger players aren't quite ready to be first team players, so we have to bridge that gap. And between Alan McManus, myself and Andy and all the academy staff, we're trying to put a system together that allows those boys to make the transition to first team a lot easier. And it's a case of phase 1's done. We've got into the top 6 perhaps earlier than we thought, but we certainly take it, and it's now how do we stay in the top 6? How do we put the foundations in place that it's not a yo-yo club that goes up and down consistently, and we become a Premiership club that's fighting and on the verge of a top 6 every season.
You talk about the academy there. You've had a lot of the younger boys involved this season. How much do you see that being a part of this club going forward?
It has to be. We can't play players 4 and 5 grand a week. We don't have that ability. From previous experience, when I've brought kids through at Motherwell, the connection is brilliant between fans and players. Younger players in the academy look up to that, and what we have to make it is an academy that produces boys for the first team. We'll obviously lose players along the way. That's the nature of the football market now. Young players at 15, 16 are getting taken away to Premiership clubs in England. And that's part of the model. We have a model where we will sell players at that age and also keep players. At the moment we've got Luke Kenny, we've got Fraser Taylor, Lewis Jameson, Kieran Offord. That's the 4 boys that have been really close to the first team and train with us on a regular basis. In between times we've sold Dylan Reid, who we brought good money in for, and Ethan Urran, who was a little bit older but came through the academy system. And that's a model of the football club. It's as a manager, you want to keep everybody, but I bought into the club. I bought into the model of producing players, selling them, and a certain amount of players we would make the base of the first team. And that's a couple of years away, in terms of getting them structures in place. But it's certainly something the club on a long-term basis have to aim for.
As a manager, you were nominated for PFA Manager of the Year, Sports Writers Manager of the Year as well. How much professional pride do you take in that?
Yeah, I do. It's the second time I think in I think it's 3 seasons, 4 seasons, some along those lines, with 2 arguably of the smaller clubs in the division. But it's a challenge, and I think the staff deserve a lot of credit, as I've already mentioned. My goalkeeping coach Jamie, my assistant manager Dermot, Jerry in the medical side of things, and Gary in the strength and conditioning side have been fantastic, and it's a reward for their dedication and hard work. And personally, it's nice to be recognised, for the hours spent here, the hours pulling your hair out with things and getting frustrated. But it's a reward, and a nice reward from people in the game at the highest level.
Just looking at some of the incomings and outgoings over the next wee while, players maybe going out, would you have maybe a word to say on their contributions to the club?
Yeah, look, it's a hard time of the year because we're at the end of season dinner, and it may be the last time I see some of the players. It's quite emotional because there's boys that I have a real connection with over a long period of time. People like Charles Dunn, who I've had I think 5 different clubs. And Charles looks like he'll move on now to pastures new, and we wish him nothing but the best. People like Curtis May and Richard Tate I've long-standing relationships with, and it just looks like we're for various reasons they won't be here next year, and I wish them nothing but good luck and happiness in their future careers. And there's other younger kids, the hard side of it, who don't get professional contracts, and that's the hardest one for me. It makes me think of my own lads and how hard it is, but you've got to do it with a degree of honesty and respect, and hope that the boys pick themselves up again. So a tough time of the year, but also an exciting one where we've got things in the background where we're trying to enhance that squad, and we're making offers for players continually, and trying to push the parameters of where we are to try and get better players in.
Obviously we're coming into the summer, and a little bit of football becomes out of sight, out of mind, but I'd imagine for you the work doesn't stop. No, as you say, there's an empty training ground here now, and we're still going to be working hard. As I said, myself and Martin Foyle, Jim Gillespie, Dermot O'Carroll, we'll be working tirelessly to get players in. Also all the maintenance stuff that goes in the close season, the medical equipment and the ground staff working hard. So it's possibly a shutdown for fans and players, but the rest of the staff have to work, unfortunately, and it'll be a working holiday. Stephen, well done on everything achieved this season, and thanks very much for your time.
Cheers, James. Thank you.